Part 18. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 171. The location is the outer gate of Hakadan 210-5380. Avenue Paribd, in front of Fountain Square. Hey. Master Ren, I'm back. Black Rabbit, who was far away, waved his arms to the two people standing at the gate. Have you brought your new partner back? Looking at the approaching Black Rabbit, the little boy sitting on the steps immediately stood up with a smile and greeted him. That's natural. Black Rabbit worked so hard to bring these four new friends back, Black Rabbit said proudly, making way for the four people behind him. But Kuro Yosagi, there are only two ladies here. Jin pointed at Kuonasuka and Kazukebyoshi behind Kuro Yosagi and asked with a puzzled look on his face. Ale? You two. Crunchy turned around like a robot, and then Black Rabbit froze with a crashing sound. Hey, it's completely petrified, Kuonasuka said and knocked on the Black Rabbit, and as expected, it made a clanging sound. It must have crashed. Rabbits in other worlds should be different from those on Earth. Kazukebyoshi grabbed one of the Black Rabbit's ears and turned it, as if trying to find a switch or something. Oops. There are two more people? One is a boy with fierce eyes, a vicious mouth, and exudes the aura of I am a problem, and the other has a poker face and exudes a man who has the aura of an aloof and strong man. Black Rabbit grabbed his hair and yelled like a collapse, uttering adjectives that sounded very strange. You mean Izayoi? He just said, I'm going to see the end of the world, and ran out. Over there. Asuka pointed to the cliff she had just seen from an altitude of 4,000 meters. Hearing this, the stunned Black Rabbit stood in the middle of the road. His rabbit ears suddenly stood up and asked, what about Yayu? Where has Mr. Yayu gone? Because Izayoi-kun said that there might be a way to travel through the world at the end of the world. It would be right to go and see it, so I followed. Why don't you stop them? He said don't stop me. Then why didn't you tell Kuro Yosagi? He said, don't tell Black Rabbit. It's a lie, it's definitely a lie. In fact, you two just find it troublesome. Yeah, X2. Gudong, Black Rabbit fell to his knees weakly. Now, she was so envious of herself who a few hours ago was expecting new talents. Sure enough, we shouldn't have expectations for problem children in the first place. Sure enough, we should have tied them all back with ropes from the beginning. Black Rabbit, are you okay? Ren on the other side smiled bitterly as he looked at Black Rabbit with jet black flames rising from his back. Master Ren, please take good care of the two young ladies. After the words were spoken, Black Rabbit's blue hair turned into a gorgeous pink cherry color again. That Black Rabbit, what do you want to do? Master Ren looked at the Black Rabbit who was full of anger with a worried look. Of course I'm going to capture the number one problem child. I actually deceived Master Yayu away. It's really an unforgivable crime, Black Rabbit said, scurrying out and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Trace. Running so fast, Juyuan Finiao sighed. Because it's a rabbit. Kazukebyoshi didn't find it strange. Ladies, please come with me. Looking at the two girls who also exuded the aura of I am a problem child, Ren made a gesture of invitation to them helplessly. Is this the end of the world? The scenery looks really good in front of a waterfall, Izayoi stood casually and said casually. It doesn't seem like there's anything special about it. Yeah, you looked around. Although this world was a small garden and this was the end of the world, he didn't find anything like a wall. Even though it's a box, it's not a real box. Humans, you can actually find this place. Are you coming to participate in my gift game? A neutral and powerful voice sounded, coming from the rumbling waterfall in front of Izayoi and Yayu. Come and participate in my gift competition. Wow. The water curtain falling from the sky splashed, soaking Izayoi from head to toe. A huge white snake-like creature leaned out from behind the waterfall, and its powerful aura made the water surface turn upside down. Stand up. As for the other side, the water curtain close to Yayu completely turned into an ice wall, and immediately fell down and shattered to the ground. Why don't you stop it for me? You're soaked again. Yayu protested against his self-centered behavior, but the latter smiled and shrugged. I'm sorry I didn't react. As for the cold air, it automatically surrounded my body and protected me. Well, it's really annoying. What on earth is it? Izayoi muttered like this and raised his head to look at the huge creature that appeared in front of him. It was a huge creature like a white snake, staring at Yayu and Izayoi with a pair of yellow-orange eyes. Now that you are in front of my snake god, come and choose a trial. If you pass my trial, I will give you unimaginable rewards. Snake god. Yayu was slightly startled. The self-proclaimed god made him react. Yes, I am the snake god, the lord of the Toli Tunis Falls at the end of the world. White Snake said proudly, while Yayu's eyes showed a dangerous light. If I pass the trial, can I choose a reward? Any reward is fine. That's right, any reward is fine, so let's choose. By the way, if you want to get the best reward, then use your power upright to prove that you defeated me. Oh, defeat you. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, and Yayu, who had always looked expressionless, actually showed a smile. It was a cruel and twisted smile. Feeling inexplicably restless, Izayoi glanced at Yayu and immediately took several steps back in fright. The frightening white frost spread under his feet. Izayoi knew that it was not suitable to stay here for a long time and turned around and ran away without even thinking. Although Izayoi likes to show off his strength and courage, it is obvious that now is not the time to do such things. It is obvious that Yayu is already excited. Yayu's excitement made Izayoi feel deeply uneasy, so this problem child chose to run away without thinking. The scene where the entire huge lake was frozen into ice was still vivid in his mind, and he didn't want to turn into an ice sculpture. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong de Aishang. Chapter 172. Izayoi fled near the waterfall at an extremely fast speed, but the snake god on the other side was still obviously unaware of anything. Although there is more or less water in it, the other party is a god after all. She also noticed the cold air emanating from Yayu, but the proud snake god obviously didn't care. The humans who can come to him will naturally not be ordinary people, and it will not be surprising to have some strange skills and so on. The power of frost, but you are too naive to think that you can defeat me as the snake god with this. The snake god thought with such disdain, since Yayu chose the most difficult one of the trials to challenge himself, then the snake god would make him understand what despair is. Very well, mortal, if you want to get my treasure, come and defeat me. Twisting its long and strong body, Snake roared like this and immediately pounced towards Yayu. Ah, really? Where did he go? 15 minutes have passed since Black Rabbit started looking for Izayoi and Yayu. It may not seem that far from an altitude of 4,000 meters, but from the lake where they fell to the end of the world, it is actually very far away. The road also has to pass through the jungle, so it is impossible for first-timers to reach it. Moreover, there are certain gods and demons around here who have set up a competition. If you are deceived into participating in the game, it will become more and more dangerous. Black Rabbit, who was running anxiously in his heart, suddenly stopped when he heard a strange sound in the surrounding forest. Are you looking for the two people who just passed by, Miss Black Rabbit? A quiet voice appeared along with the sound of hooves, and what appeared was a horse with a smooth blue-white body and horns on its forehead, a fantasy beast called a unicorn. This is really rare, it's actually a rare unicorn. Shouldn't the Unicorn Guild be in the south? It's up to me to say this. I thought it was impossible to see rabbits on the east side of the small garden except for official competitions. Well, let's not ask each other. If the person you are looking for is what I imagined, he should the same destination as mine. The inhabitants of the forest said they challenged the water god's followers to a race. Whoa! Black Rabbit couldn't help but feel dizzy, and collapsed on the ground like a loser. On the cliff called the end of the world is the end of the 8 major rivers in this small world, Tritness Falls. As for the descendants of the water god who now live nearby, they are either dragons or snake gods. Really, what's the problem? There is no time to cry now. If they are indeed the person you are looking for, you'd better hurry up. The water god competition here will select people. It may be too late to go now and sit on my back. Ah, it's wow. Just as Black Rabbit was about to get on the horse, suddenly, the earth shook and a roar filled the entire forest. Everyone couldn't help but look to the other side of the river. There were several huge water columns rising in the distance that could even be seen clearly with the naked eye. If it were a normal game, this would never happen. I'm sorry, it seems it's better for Black Rabbit to go on his own. Ugh, although I don't want a young girl to take risks alone, but do you think I'm not qualified? Yes, I might not be able to protect you if something happens. Although it's rude to say this, Black Rabbit is still faster. The unicorn smiled bitterly and took a few steps back. Please be careful and greet your problem child for me. The Black Rabbit nodded, looking nervously as he rushed towards the Tritness River. Her figure became distant in an instant, chasing the wind, passing through the trees, and running straight through the forest like light. The field of vision widened, and in just a few seconds, Black Rabbit arrived at the bank of the river. It should be around here. Oh, isn't this Black Rabbit? Why has the color of his hair changed? Suddenly, I remembered the disgusting voice of questioner behind me, and Izayoi seemed to be fine. Black Rabbit was immediately relieved. No, not at all. Her patience had reached its limit after being tossed around by Izayoi. Black Rabbit turned around furiously and said angrily. Really, where did you run away to? And you fooled Mr. Yayu into fooling around with you. It's just that I came to the end of the world. Oh, okay, don't be so angry. Izayoi's frivolous smile was still there. And he wasn't injured, so there seemed to be no need to worry. If he had to say there was any difference from him a moment ago, it would be that he was even wetter when he fell off. But my legs are pretty good. Although I was just playing, I didn't expect you to catch up so quickly. Humph, of course. The Black Rabbit is a noble race praised as the nobles of the little garden. So this Black Rabbit. Oops. Black Rabbit suddenly felt something strange. Because only Izayoi is standing here, and it seems like Izayoi has been standing here leisurely for a long time. So who caused the huge roar and splashing water just now? Black Rabbit's expression changed. He looked around and spoke in a trembling tone. Yeah, where did Mr. Yayu go? Oh, Yayu, I should have a pleasant exchange with the snake god over there. That guy doesn't know what's going on. When he heard that he could get any kind of reward, his eyes lit up. It was like he is as scary as a hungry wolf. Recalling Yayu's appearance just now, Izayoi was obviously still frightened, and Black Rabbit's face was even more ugly. How could it be like this? Why didn't Izayoi-kun stop it? That's a god, a snake god. Isn't it just a big snake? It's completely incomparable to Yayu. It will be killed instantly, right? Izayoi said lazily, while Black Rabbit shook his head nervously. Don't underestimate anyone who has the status of a god. Their power is beyond your imagination. Although Mr. Yayu is also very strong, if his power encounters the snake god who controls water. Black Rabbit no longer dared to imagine it anymore. It was true that Yayu was very strong, but Yayu's power was linked to the flow of water, but controlling water was the snake god's specialty. In this way, Yayu can't take any advantage in front of the snake god. He can only get points for being suppressed, right? No. Stop fooling around. Let's rush there now. If we are fast, we may have time to organize them. Black Rabbit said this, dragging Izayoi to move forward, but the latter shook his head resolutely and insisted on standing where he was. I don't want to go, that guy is serious. Although I really want to have a good fight with him, the guy who is serious, makes me feel deeply afraid. Otherwise, why do you think I would standing here? You don't even have the courage to go over and watch the battle. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongde Aishang. Chapter 173. Although Izaoi's words seemed a bit vulgar, every word was spoken from the bottom of his heart. Because of his words, Black Rabbit, who was still a little anxious, calmed down and stared at him stupidly. Although they only got along for a short time, Black Rabbit also figured out what kind of person Izayoi is. Being able to make him say such words so willingly shows how much oppression Yayu brought to him. Big. Mr. Yayu, is it really so scary? It took a long time before he came back to his senses, and Black Rabbit muttered as if talking to himself. Ah, that guy is a monster, a real monster. As Izayoi said this, he showed a somewhat bitter smile. It was really ironic to say such an adjective from his own mouth. As for the so-called snake god, it's just a little white snake. Even if you say so, Izayoi-kun, you still underestimate the snake god. After all, he is a god. Shaking his head to recover from the initial panic, Black Rabbit ignored Izayoi and ran towards the waterfall. Well, it looks like it's almost over. It should be safe if we go there now. Izayoi muttered, and immediately followed Black Rabbit and walked slowly towards the waterfall. The further you walk in that direction, the more you can feel the frightening chill in the air. It seems that the development of things is somewhat different from what Black Rabbit imagined. Yayu, who controls the gift of ice, does not seem to suffer much in front of the snake god who controls the gift of water. There is still some distance from the waterfall, and the cold air has spread to this extent. It seems that Yayu still has the upper hand in the battle. But when Kurito and Izayoi walked to the waterfall, they couldn't even speak, and they forgot about the cold. They just stared blankly at the spectacular scene in front of them. The cliff called the end of the world, the end point of the 8 great rivers in the Hakoniwa world, Tritnus Falls has been completely frozen at this moment. Not only Tritnus Falls, but perhaps the entire world within 100 miles has turned into a world of ice and snow. Frost is still frost, and the rest is invisible. Black Rabbit and Izayoi stared at Yayu dumbfounded, while the latter touched his head in embarrassment. That is a little more serious. He smiled coquettishly at Izayoi and Black Rabbit, causing the two of them to tremble uncontrollably. You are only a little serious at this level, but what kind of damage do you want to cause if you become completely serious? Snake, how is she doing, Lord Snake God? Black Rabbit asked in a panic. When he came to Yayu, he looked up and saw the very conspicuous snake god who had turned into an ice sculpture. Ugh, Lord Snake God turned into ice. It's okay. She was just frozen by me. It shouldn't be life-threatening. Yayu was comforting him. Although he defeated the so-called snake god, he was not interested in the reward at all. Because this so-called god is so weak that Yayu can't believe it. Can such a weak guy call himself a god? How could someone with this level of strength control the power to travel across the world? Yayu thought so and sighed helplessly. Let's go, Black Rabbit. I understand, Master Yayu, but that snake god. It's okay. The ice cubes will melt completely in about a day or so. No. That's not what I'm talking about. Mr. Yayu, since you have defeated the water god, let's just accept the reward. It is a reward that will be of great benefit to our community. Oh. Black Rabbit said this, Yayu was slightly stunned, and then a piece of contract fell from the sky, and then turned into a small sapling. That's right, it's this, a water tree that can continuously produce clean water. Now our community doesn't have to travel all the way for water resources. The black rabbit holding the sapling looked happy. I've heard everything. You can't even solve the problem of water resources. Black rabbit, how weak is your community? Yin Che's voice sounded from behind Black Rabbit. Ah! This, Black Rabbit jumped up and said incoherently. Ah, I'm really sorry. Finally, he lowered his head in great frustration, even his two rabbit ears drooped. Actually, Black Rabbit's community has reached the point of life and death, so we can't wait for the new companions to join, if Mr. Yayu and Izayoi-kun don't join, our community. Didn't I say that I don't care about this? Seeing Black Rabbit's nervous look, Yayu said something funny. He slowly walked over and gently touched the girl's head. As Yayu approached, the frightening chill in the air gradually dropped, and the temperature rose to a comfortable level. Mr. Yayu. Black Rabbit raised his head in emotion, and his blue hair turned into a beautiful pink cherry color again due to the emotional fluctuations. Okay, if you're moved, we'll talk about it later. Let's talk about the situation of our community first. It doesn't matter if you are weak, just find a way to become stronger. Yayu said with a smile. This situation made him involuntarily think of the Hestia Familia. First of all, our guild does not have a name to report to itself. Therefore, it is like many other guilds without names, and is derided as nameless. Oh, are there many guilds in the same situation? What next? Yayu nodded lightly. We don't have a proud flag for the guild either. The flag plays an important role in showing the strength of the guild. Huh? What else? In addition to having no name and no flag, what's even more fatal is that there is no one partner left who can become the core. To put it more clearly, among the 122 members of our guild, only those who can use the gift of participating in the competition, except for Black Rabbit, there is only Master Jin N, and the rest are all children under the age of 10. I'm so desperate, Izayoi sighed. That is to say. Black Rabbit lowered his head in frustration again. But why did it become like this? Is Black Rabbit's community a kindergarten? Izayoi asked curiously. Black Rabbit shook his head sadly. No, all the children's relatives were taken away. Took away by the greatest natural disaster that hit Hakoniwa, the Demon King. Demon King. Hearing this word, Izayoi, who had always just responded casually, immediately screamed. What's wrong? Izayoi-kun, even Black Rabbit was shocked by Izayoi's reaction. It's so interesting. Since he is called the Demon King, he must be extremely powerful. The game of defeating the powerful boss and saving a weak community on the verge of destruction is really interesting. Izayoi jumped up, his eyes sparkled, like a child who had discovered an interesting toy. It's impossible. The Demon King is a natural disaster in the small garden. He is an almost invincible existence. Even the gods are no match for them. Oh. Listening to what Black Rabbit said, Yayu also looked interested. Demon Kings, are they so powerful? Can they only have the ability to travel through the world? The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 174. Although the bad situation in the community was revealed, not only was he not abandoned, but the bond between his companions became deeper. At this moment, Black Rabbit was very satisfied. But unfortunately, Black Rabbit's happy mood did not last long before it shattered into pieces. Hey, hey, hey. What, how could you agree to the gift competition so casually? And why did you come into contact with the leader of Forsgaro in such a short period of time and even provoke him? And the game is tomorrow? And we have to fight on the enemy's territory. What on earth are you thinking? Let me ask you again, two ladies. They finally met at the fountain square at sunset. After hearing what happened, Black Rabbit, who was originally looking excited, turned gloomy, and the rabbit's ears stood up and he became very angry. In response to the sudden situation, he began to preach and question. That's something that can't be helped. Such a scumbag really can't help but want to teach him a lesson. In response to Black Rabbit's loud question, Juyuinasuka shrugged indifferently. On the other side, Kazukebyoshi held the three-haired cat and remained silent. What a bunch of problem children you are. The outburst. Black Rabbit once again pulled out the folding fan that was an artifact he carried with him, and then gave Kuyuinasuka a fatal blow. Master Jin-en, too. Why don't you stop them? I want to stop it too, but... The young man named Jin-en, who is also the nameless and true leader of the community, showed a helpless smile. The thing happened too suddenly. Although it was indeed Jared Gaspard, the leader of the community Forsgaro, who initiated the provocation, Kuyuinasuka and Kazukebyo directly escalated the verbal provocation to a physical one. What should we do now? We finally summoned new partners and solved the water source problem. We originally planned to start a good development, but how could we directly mess with such a powerful community, G said. In the nearby beverage shop, Black Rabbit slumped down on a chair and pulled his hair as if he was giving up. What are you afraid of? Since the enterprise contract has been signed, let's kill them without mercy. I'm really sorry for not teaching such scum a lesson. Juyuan Finiao shook the contract document in his hand. An indifferent expression on his face. Then I'm looking forward to the performance of the two eldest ladies. Izayoi on the side held his head and showed a nasty smile. How can this be like this? You are partners in the same community, and you must help each other. This is different. Izayoi shook his finger at Black Rabbit. Listen, they started this fight. And the other party accepted it? If I take action now, wouldn't I be ignorant? Ale, do you know the rules? This is not in line with your initial self-acceptance. In response to Izaoi's answer, Juyuinasuka flipped her long hair and smiled with satisfaction. Yayu, who had been sitting aside and unable to say anything, waited until they finished talking before slowly raising his question. What kind of community is that so-called community Forsgaro? That is a community under the umbrella of the upper-level Demon King community 666 beasts. Like our community Wyoming, it is located at the outer gate of 210-5380 Hakatani, East District. It is considered a tyrant in the East District. In short, it is definitely not a good thing to provoke them. Woolen cloth. Wait a minute. 210-5380 outer door, does it mean that there is such a huge outer door with 7 figures? Frightened by the numbers in Black Rabbit's mouth, Yayu asked in surprise. That's right. Black Rabbit has said it a long time ago. The area of the entire small garden is so huge that it is unimaginable. There are 7 floors in the small garden, and our community nameless is located at the outer gate of 210-5380 on the bottom floor. It is located in the smaller the number of outer gates, the stronger the community is. That means our community is now ranked 2,105,380th in the entire Hakaba garden. Izaoi on the side asked, and Black Rabbit shook his head in embarrassment. No. It's far more than this number, because it's impossible for an outer sect to have only one community. It's really a disappointing position. Indeed. Yayu, who was a little indifferent at first, also showed a bitter smile. Ugh, I'm sorry. Black Rabbit said this in frustration again, and his pair of rabbit ears drooped softly. Well, don't think about this kind of thing, just think about something good. Well, that's right. I dragged Master Yayufu away, defeated Master Water God, and won this water seedling. Now I no longer have to worry about the community's water source problem, Black Rabbit said and held the water in his arms. The little sapling was attached to his face very preciously. Is it true, this is the sapling of the water god? Listening to Black Rabbit's words, Jin En, who was sitting aside, also showed an excited look. Well, that's right. Master Jin En, please go back first. Since tomorrow is the gift competition, I must go to Thousand Eyes to do the gift appraisal for everyone today. I also need to ask Mizu to be put away conveniently. Thousand Eyes, is this also the name of the guild? Yeah, you and others asked with some confusion, while Black Rabbit nodded vigorously. Yes. The Thousand Eyes is a guild centered on those who have the gift of special eyes. It is a huge business guild that is spread all over the southeast, northwest, and upper and lower levels of the small garden. Fortunately, there is a branch of theirs nearby. What does gift appraisal mean? Of course, it is to identify the ability and origin of the gift. Only by correctly mastering your own abilities can you maximize your abilities. You are also very concerned about where your power comes from, right? The group of people then started to head towards the branch of Thousand Eyes. Along the way, Yayu and others were dazzled by what they saw. The various landscapes in this magical world were absolutely unimaginable in their world. The various strange non-human race creatures that resembled black rabbits surprised them for a long time. Okay. We're here, Black Rabbit, who was walking in front, suddenly stopped. Is this the headquarters of Thousand Eyes? Yayu raised his head and asked. What appeared in front of everyone was a shop that didn't seem to have anything unique. The blue flag hanging in front of the store depicts two goddess statues looking at each other. This should be the flag of Thousand Eyes. But just when Haito was about to take Yayu and others in, the female clerk wearing an apron and standing under the sign stopped Haito, who was about to enter. Guests, please stay. Our store is not open right now, so you can't go in. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong Dai Shang. Chapter 175. Black Rabbit couldn't help but widen his eyes. This is such a shop that doesn't want to do business. It doesn't even let customers in 5 minutes before closing time. If you are not satisfied, please go elsewhere. You are prohibited from entering our store in the future. No. Prohibited? You have to ban it just for this reason. Don't you look down on your guests too much? Black Rabbit couldn't help shouting. The clerk looked at her with cold eyes and said contemptuously. I see, it would be rude of me to stop the rabbit customer of Heikaniwa nobles. You are allowed to enter the store, but can you tell me the name of the guild first? Ugh. Black Rabbit was speechless, but yeah, you signed up without hesitation. We are a guild called Wuming. Haha. So, who is the nameless? If possible, can you let me confirm the flag? Yeah, you also fell silent. The risks caused by the lack of name and flag that Black Rabbit mentioned were referring to this situation. It is precisely because they are a strong store that they choose customers. Because they won't take the risk of hosting an uncredited customer. Everyone's eyes were focused on Black Rabbit, and she whispered unwillingly from the bottom of her heart. That, we don't have a flag. Yahoo! Long time no see, Black Rabbit. But not long after Black Rabbit stuttered out these words, she was suddenly rushed out of the store by a girl wearing kimono-style clothes and with snow-white hair. Gilo spun 4.5 times in the air and flew straight to the shallow ditch on the other side of the road. Ah! Plop, followed by a scream. Izaoi and others opened their eyes in surprise, while the clerk held his head helplessly. Hey clerk! Does this store still provide scary services? Then I must have another version. We don't have it in our store. It doesn't matter if you charge. Won't do it? The female clerk with a serious face simply rejected Izaoi, who was also serious. Both of them are quite serious and look like two idiots. The white-haired young girl who attacked Kuro Yosagi with a flying strike buried her head in Kuro Yosagi's chest. Ha ha ha, let me take a closer look. There is something else here. It has indeed become bigger. It is indeed a black rabbit. Then the reminiscing words came out from the ditch. Several girls looked away embarrassedly, while Yayu stared over there without blinking. Don't get me wrong, he simply felt that Shiroyasha was a very powerful guy. Shiro, Sir Shiroyasha, why did you come to such a lower level? Black Rabbit asked as he struggled to sit up in the ditch. Of course this is because I had a premonition that the Black Rabbit was coming. Hee, is this a suitable place? Is this a suitable place? A massage with such strength will definitely become very interesting. The girl named Shiroyaksha couldn't help but nuzzle in Black Rabbit's arms. Sir Shiroyaksha. Please, please let me go. Black Rabbit grabbed the girl's head and forcibly pulled her away from him, throwing her towards the store. The girl whirling in the air flew towards Yayu by chance, and the latter's expression did not change at all as he condensed a sharp ice pick in his hand. Hey! Do you want to murder this beautiful girl you met for the first time? Just as Yayu expected, Bayaksha's body hovered strangely in mid-air, avoiding the ice pick in Yayu's hand. Nothing, just a little curious. Yayu said this with a faint smile, and the ice pick in his hand disappeared. Bayaksha looked at him with interested eyes, and then he also laughed. Interesting, you remind me of someone. Asuka, who was stunned by the series of farce in front of him, came back to his senses and asked Shiroyaksha. Are you from this store? Ahem, that's it? I, Shiroyaksha, am the top coder of the entire Thousand Eyes. If you have any entrustment, I can help you with it for free for the sake of Black Rabbit. On the contrary, the lady asked me to directly just rub your breasts, which are well developed for your age. Shiroyaksha stood up and put on a serious expression, but at the end he said words that were completely incompatible with seriousness. Manager, sales will not increase like this. The boss will be angry, the clerk on the side warned coldly. Don't worry, if the boss knows that the lower branch has not been demolished for so long due to my efforts, he will be so happy that he doesn't know how to reward me. Bayasha spread his hands in a smart manner. Black Rabbit, who came out of the ditch with his wet clothes and mini skirt, said with a complicated expression. I didn't expect that I would get wet too. This can be considered karma. Izaoi on the side immediately seized the opportunity and smiled. The unlucky Black Rabbit had no choice but to twist his wet clothes, and his pair of rabbit ears drooped listlessly again. Oh, this is the new partner you summoned, Black Rabbit. They all look good. So this time, Black Rabbit is completely determined to be my pet. Opening the folding fan that he had held in his hand with a snap, Bayasha covered the lower half of his face and squinted at the people standing next to Black Rabbit. Although the first impression is that of an unscrupulous Iraj Lolita, after making such handsome movements, it also reveals a sense of maturity and majesty. After saying this, Bayaksha's eyes stayed on Yayu. She was very concerned about this man who looked indifferent. She didn't just say it casually. Yayu did remind her of someone who wanted to come to the lower level to see her. It's almost exactly like her, this unpleasant power is full of coldness and death. I don't know how to do it. How on earth did you come up with such an answer? Black Rabbit, whose rabbit ears suddenly stood up, became angry. But Bayasha, who didn't know when he was serious, smiled and invited everyone to the store. Okay. Let's talk about it in the store if you have anything to say. Is this okay? They are nameless who don't even have a flag. According to the regulations. This is an apology to the vicious clerk who asked for the name even though he knew it was nameless. I can vouch for them. If the boss blames me, I will be responsible. Well, let them in. The female clerk whined, very reluctantly. In her opinion, she was just abiding by the store's rules. Even if people were unhappy, she couldn't blame herself. The few people who walked into the nori under the glare of the female clerk arrived at an unnaturally spacious atrium that was unimaginable from the store's appearance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 176. Various treasures are displayed in the window of the front foyer. It's unlucky for you to come. I was planning to receive guests, so the store is closed. Just go to my private room and make do with it. Several people walked through the atrium of Zafeng and stopped on one side. The tent in front was opened, and the fragrance inside blew directly into everyone's noses with the wind. It seemed that there was incense burning. Byakusha led everyone into this slightly spacious Japanese room as a private room, sat down at the top, stretched out, and looked at Yayu and others. If you pay attention, you will find that the kimono on her body has been dry for some time. Let me introduce myself again. I am Shiro Yasha, the Cotter of the Summoning Eye of the Guild headquartered in the Four Gates, the 3345 Outer Gate. I have some connections with this black rabbit. Just think of me as it would be nice for the beautiful girl with amazing energy to help her from time to time after the destruction of their guild. Yes, I'm really taken care of by you. Black Rabbit casually said these prickly words, and Yao beside her was slightly amazed. The outer sect of 3345. There is such a big gap between him and Wuming. That's natural. In this small garden world full of gods and Buddhas, we Kinyan also occupy a place and have a certain right to speak. This small city is divided into 7 ruling tiers from top to bottom, and the number of gates changes with each level. Speaking of what is within the 4 outer gates of the little garden, it is a completely alien and demonic realm occupied by the well-known Shura gods and demons. The current location, the 7 outer gates, is equivalent to the outermost part of the small garden. To explain in detail, this is the east side of the 4 areas of southeast, northwest, and northwest. The outer gate is facing the end of the world. There is no a place where those who belong to any guild and have powerful gifts can live, just like the Lord of the Water Tree over there. Shiro Yasha chuckled and looked at the sapling of the water tree held by Black Rabbit. She should be referring to the snake god who lives near Tritnus Falls. But who, and in what kind of competition, won this? Is it a test of wisdom? Or a test of courage? No, this water tree was won by Lord Yayu by using his ability to defeat Lord Snake God before coming here. Black Rabbit said proudly, but Byakusha did not show much excitement, but stared at Yayu thoughtfully. Oh, were you defeated by him? That's not surprising, after all. Byakusha paused slightly as he spoke, then showed a faint smile. You're really lucky, Black Rabbit. It seems like you summoned something amazing this time, in every sense of the word. With all due respect, that so-called snake god, doesn't seem to be qualified to be a god at all, right? Are gods so weak? Haha, the so-called god is just a title. Calling him the snake god does not mean that he is the god who really rules all snakes. It seems that you haven't figured out the races in this world yet. When Byakusha said this, his eyes became serious. The so-called godhead does not mean being born a god, but refers to the highest level of the race's gift of being able to change the body. The godhead of a snake gives the snake god a giant body. The godhead of a human creates gods and prodigies in the world. The godhead of a ghost can be transformed into a form that shakes the world. Ghosts and gods. Moreover, possessing godhead can also strengthen other gifts. Most of the guilds in the small garden have the first goal of obtaining godhead to achieve their own goals, so as to gain the power to move up. And more powerful beings, such as myself and many demon kings, can even directly grant godhood to others. Of course, there are differences in levels of godhood like this. Does Lord White Yaksha know Lord Snake God? Black Rabbit on the side asked curiously. What if you don't recognize it? I was the one who gave it divine status. But it was hundreds of years ago. Byakusha puffed up his flat chest and smiled boldly. You mean, you created that snake god? Listening to the other party's words, Yayu's eyes suddenly flashed with excitement. Humph, it goes without saying. I am the hierarchical ruler of the East Side. I am the strongest organizer that no one in the East Side's 4 guilds or less can match. Standing at the door of the room, Bayaksha said with a majestic look. At this moment, it wasn't just Yayu. When they heard the title of the strongest organizer, Izayoi, Asuka, and Yayan all shined. Really, haha. So, as long as we defeat you in the game, our guild will be the strongest guild in the East. Of course, that's exactly what it is. This is really good. It saves you the trouble of looking for it. The 4 people, including Yayu, looked at Bayaksha with obvious fighting intent, and Bayaksha laughed when he felt this. What an interesting group of kids. Instead of asking for a commission, they want to challenge me to a gift competition. Huh? Wait, you guys. Shiroyasha stretched out his hand to stop the panicked Black Rabbit. It's okay, Black Rabbit. I'm often hungry and don't have an opponent to play with. It's really interesting. I like this. Haha, is that right? However, there is something I need to confirm before playing the game. Shiroyasha took out from the hem of his kimono a card with the flag of the summoning eye, the crest of the 2 goddesses looking at each other, and laughed loudly. Do you expect a challenge or a duel? In an instant, explosive changes appeared in the eyes of the 4 people. Vision was meaningless, and various scenarios began to spin in their minds. What passes through my mind is the grassland with golden waves of wheat. Hills overlooking the white horizon. Forest lakeside. The scenery that had never been seen before continued to rotate, swallowing the 4 people from below. What the 4 of them were transported to was a white snowfield and a frozen lakeside, and it was a world where the sun moved horizontally. This shocking anomaly made the 3 people except Yayu take a breath at the same time. This is a completely different feeling than when I was summoned to the little garden, and it is a technology that cannot be expressed in words. There was only one star in the faintly bright sky in the distance. It was the white sun slowly floating horizontally across the world. This is simply creating a planet and creating a worldwide miracle. Only Yayu was not intimidated by the changes in the scenery before him, because he had seen similar scenes before and could create them himself. The inherent barrier is a taboo technique that relies on its own power to erode the world. Although Bayaksha's world seems to be more real, it is at least within the scope of Yayu's understanding. Since you can understand, then there is a possibility of defeating it. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong Daishang. Chapter 177. I will re-register my name now and ask you again. Facing the devil of the White Knight, the star spirit of the sun and the White Knight, Shiroyaksha. Do you want to challenge the trial? Or be equal to me? Duel. Looking at the 4 people in front of him, Bayaksha smiled and said lightly. Demon King Shiroyasha's aura that was never expected from the girl's smile once again made the breath of the 3 teenagers stagnant. Star spirit refers to the main spirit that exists on planets above the planet level. Goblins, ghosts, demons, and other concepts are the most advanced races, and they are also the givers of gifts. Izayoi felt a pleasant cold sweat forming on his back, looked at Shiroyasha and smiled. The sun that moves horizontally, is that right, Baya and Yaksha? That sun that moves horizontally and this land, are you the ones who made it? Yes, this white night lakeside and snowfield. The sun that slightly illuminates the eternal world is one of the playgrounds I own. Bayaksha opened his arms, and the sea of clouds on the other side of the horizon split instantly, revealing a trace of the sun. The star spirit of White Night. The White Night mentioned by Izayoi is exactly the phenomenon that can be seen in certain dimensional areas in Finland, Norway, and other Nordic countries, where the sun never sets. Yaksha, while being the god of water and earth, is also a ghost god with a fierce side. In the small garden where many Shura gods and demons gather, Star spirits are the gods known as the strongest race. And the Shiroyasha in front of him at this moment can be said to be the representative of Hakoniwa, the powerful demon king. Such a huge land is just a playground. That's right. Okay, what's your answer? If it's a challenge, I'll be merciful and play with you. But if you want a duel, that's two different things. As the demon king, I will bet I will risk my life and dignity to fight with you. Asuka, Yao, and even the arrogant Izayoi hesitated to answer immediately. They didn't know what gifts Byakusha had. But it was already clear that there was no hope of winning. However, this was my own fault, and cancelling it under such circumstances would hurt our self-esteem. Black Rabbit also breathed a sigh of relief. Although the problem children and adults were a bit troublesome, at least they were not stupid and knew how to advance and retreat. Since Izayoi and the others no longer dare to challenge, then the mature and steady Yayu will not accept this challenge, right? Just as Black Rabbit was thinking this, Yayu slowly walked forward, stared at Byakusha and spoke. If I win the challenge, what do I get? Ah, how is this possible? Mr. Yayu still likes to joke about defeating Lord Shiroyakusha. Black Rabbit thought this in his heart, while Shiroyakusha answered very seriously. I said that as the Demon King, I will risk my dignity and life to fight you. If you win, you will naturally get everything from me. What, Sir Byakusha is the same. Why do you have to answer so seriously? How could Mr. Yayu challenge you? Black Rabbit continued to comfort himself in his heart, but for some reason Rabbit's legs were trembling. Looking at Byakusha, who answered casually with a faint smile, Yayu showed an interested expression. Since you can give gifts to others, can you give me the gift of freely traveling between worlds? Yayu asked. Byakusha was slightly startled, and then stared at Yayu strangely. Interesting, are you dissatisfied with this small garden and want to leave? No, it's just that there are important people in other worlds, so I at least want to bring them here. That's it, the gift of freely traveling around the world does exist, but it's at a very high level. You're not even qualified to touch it. Byakusha said, staring at Yayu seriously. If you want to know something about this, at least defeat me first and let me see if you are qualified for this. As you wish. Yayu stared at Byakusha, who was petite but exuded an aura like an endless abyss. He spoke like this word by word, and immediately put on a challenge stance. Black Rabbit was still stunned on the spot, and kept comforting herself in her heart that she would not start a fight, and then Yayu's words directly sent her into hell. Are you kidding? I must have heard wrong? It's impossible to really challenge Lord Shiroyasha, right? Black Rabbit was still hypnotizing himself in his heart, until the gradually spreading cold air made the girl shiver uncontrollably. Idiot, why are you still standing here? Why don't you run away? Izayoi yelled at Black Rabbit, while he himself turned around and ran toward the far horizon. Really, you are still not a man, you have no gentlemanly manners at all. Kuyuinasuka muttered unhappily. Although the girl did not understand the seriousness of the matter, the girl's sixth sense told her that it was best to get away from here quickly. So she followed closely, while Kazukabyao grabbed the Black Rabbit who was staying there stupidly, and the four of them fled away together, just to get further away from the place where the cold wave broke out. Facts have proved that Izaoi's choice was correct. Not long after they left Shiroyasha and Yayu's side, the accumulated cold air reached its peak, and then triggered a spectacular effect like an explosion. Ice edges all over the sky rose up from the ground, turning Byakusha's empty world into a world of frost in an instant. Oh, it looks like we can enjoy a good show now. As if he felt that the distance to escape was safe enough, Izayoi stopped and turned around to stare at the place in the distance that was wrapped in heavy ice. Byakusha's world seems to have a strong suppression on Yayu's power. Although the scene is still spectacular, there is no doubt that the power exuded by Yayu now is much stronger than when he was fighting the snake god at the end of the world during the day. He was much weaker. You must know that at that time, Izayoi didn't even dare to watch the battle. It's so random. How can we win? If we fight with Lord Shirayasha, it's impossible to hide. It was only then that Black Rabbit finally came to his senses and said this in a tone that was about to cry. She wanted to stop the fight between the two, but was held tightly by Kazukebyoshi. Since Yayu is also our companion, we should respect his decision. Staring at Black Rabbit, Kazukebyo said this in a rare serious tone. Since we are companions, how can we just watch Mr. Yayu die? He's not going to die. Izayoi shook his head and stepped forward, his black eyes staring at the white world in the distance sparkling with indescribable brilliance. As Byakusha said, this is also a battle for his life and dignity. If you really respect Yayu and regard him as your companion, don't stop him. For a moment, Black Rabbit didn't say anything more. He just looked into the distance with worried eyes and prayed silently in his heart. You must win, Mr. Yayu. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongde Aishang. Chapter 178. In the empty and monotonous world, at some point, faint ice crystals were flying, spreading around unconsciously, and a feeling called cold struck Byakusha's heart. It's really interesting, I can actually feel the concept of cold. Byakusha opened his mouth slightly, revealing an excited and expectant smile. As the star spirit of the sun and the White Knight, Shirayasha, the demon king of the White Knight, has been lonely for a long time. Her noble status keeps her aloof and pampered, and her powerful strength makes her impervious to the cold and heat. Apart from meeting that annoying guy, Byakusha couldn't remember how long it had been since he had felt cold. Cold, it's really a wonderful feeling. Gently stretching out a hand to catch a falling snowflake, Byakusha said with a soft smile, her eyes fell on Yayu, and she spoke with some interest. You are really interesting. You are so similar to that friend of mine. Is there any connection between you two? Byakusha asked, but Yayu had no time to answer her. Just like what he said to Izayoi at the beginning, he really couldn't control the power in his body well. Frost, which should be pure and flawless, gives people an extremely unclean feeling. The temperature is getting lower and lower, and the white color slowly spreads along Yayu's feet, spreading. The temperature had dropped so much that Shirayasha couldn't help but take a deep breath. The frost all over the ground spread slowly along Yayu's feet, and tiny ice crystals floated in the air, full of strange beauty, with the beauty of death. Byakusha knew that she could no longer let the other party continue. If it continued like this, even she might not be able to resist the frost. But we are still looking forward to the frost that can freeze the sun. With such a gentle smile, Byakusha stretched out a hand and gently tapped where Yayu was. Fire, with a soft cry, a ball of flames appeared silently under Yayu's feet, and then exploded fiercely. With a speed that was almost difficult to discern with the naked eye, flames rose into the sky, but Yayu's figure was already missing from the spot. Byakusha's gaze slowly shifted, and suddenly the cold murderous aura coming from behind him made her whole neck shiver. Cold ice, hungry ice, it's a cold feeling that makes life worse than death. Fire, Byakusha whispered again, and suddenly the bright firelight suddenly rose up along her petite body, and then a blue ice-colored shadow brushed across Byakusha's body. Ice and fire are natural enemies. Once they meet, they will definitely fight to the death. To some extent, Byakusha, who is a symbol of the sun, does not have much favorable impression of Yayu who has such power. The sun symbolizes that there is still hope for life, but Yayu's frost power is the ice of death that is completely silent and destroys everything. It's a little bit interesting, but it's still far from enough. Byakusha chuckled and said, but no one responded. The whole world was deathly silent, except for the slowly dancing frost. If it's just this level of power, it's a pity that you are no match for me. As soon as the words fell, the unparalleled hot breath burst out from Byakusha's body, and the girl began to shine and heat like a small sun. Izayoi and the others who were watching the battle from a distance felt a sting in their eyes, and then a dazzling white light spread across the entire world. It was still so cold that people were speechless, but as the white light spread, the surrounding temperature suddenly rose, reaching a level that several people were uncomfortable with. Wow, this feels like being in a furnace. Should I say that I am worthy of being the star spirit of the sun? That's right, Lord Shiroyasha is the star spirit of the sun and the White Knight, almost equal to the sun itself. Black Rabbit nodded and said so, looking at the battlefield in the distance with worry. The frost covering the battlefield has melted away unconsciously, which seems to indicate Yayu's defeat, but has Yayu really been defeated? Black Rabbit and the others, who were approaching Shiroyasha again, heard a painful groan, which obviously came from Shiroyasha. Yayu's figure stumbled in front of Byakusha. His face was horribly pale and there were some burn marks on his body. But Yayu was smiling. He looked at Byakusha, who looked depressed, and slowly spoke to her while smiling. I lost, I'm no match for you. He surrendered decisively and freely. Yayu clearly understood that the other party had not used even 1/10 of his power, but even so, he was completely at his wit's end. Yayu's frost is indeed powerful, but he cannot freeze a sun. Shirayasha's existence itself is the sun. If you want to defeat her, you must first freeze the sun. Of course, being able to freeze the sun does not mean that you can defeat Byakusha. This is just a prerequisite. If you can't even do this, you are not even qualified to stand in front of Shiroyasha and fight her. Yayu longs for power, longs to become stronger, and longs to gain the ability to freely travel around the world, but this does not mean that Yayu is a fool, nor does it mean that Yayu goes back and pretends to hit his head and get bloody when he knows that there is no chance of winning. After Byakusha exerted part of his power, Yayu was keenly aware of the gap between the two, and then decisively gave in. Of course, he had to admit defeat. In the end, Yayu succeeded in making Byakusha suffer an unspeakable small loss, and finally regained some ground. Tisk, if we hadn't been merciful, how many seconds do you think you could have lasted? Byakusha pouted and said with an unhappy look on her face. Half of her arm lost its intuition, and broken ice fragments could still be seen on it. Yayu's power cannot freeze the entire sun, but this does not mean that his frost is not qualified. What Yayu lacks is just absolute strength. Although there is a huge gap in absolute strength between him and Byakusha, Yayu can still easily do it if he uses his own power well to deal a fatal blow to a small group of people. At the end of the confrontation just now, Yayu did just that. He directly used the strongest power he could use to completely freeze half of Byakusha's arm. Although she only restricted the opponent for a few seconds, which made her feel a little numb, Yayu was already very satisfied. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 179. Seeing that Yayu was fine except for being a little weak, Black Rabbit finally breathed a sigh of relief and immediately rushed towards Yayu. Yayu was slightly stunned, thinking that Black Rabbit wanted to give him a hug or something, but when he opened his hands, the girl stopped in front of him, then took out a folding fan and hit him hard on the head. For a moment. Master Yayu, you've had enough. Even if I can respect and understand your decision, please understand Black Rabbit's mood, okay? We are companions of a community. In this case, don't make any decisions that will frighten our companions. Things are coming. Ah. After touching his head, which didn't hurt at all, Yayu showed a helpless smile, and then slowly spoke to Black Rabbit with an apologetic look. Sorry Black Rabbit, can you forgive me for being so willful? As a companion. Really, next time, you must listen to Black Rabbit's advice. Black Rabbit said coquettishly with a very cute expression, then gently approached and hugged Yayu's body. Because, we are companions, so don't try to be strong alone. What? Black Rabbit's charming and obscene body should only belong to me. It's not obscene at all, and it doesn't belong to you. Shiroya-sama is the same. Why are you scaring Rabbit? Black Rabbit was almost scared to death by you. After looking at Izayoi and others with stunned looks, Black Rabbit jumped up and slapped Shiroyasha on the head with a folding fan again. Even if you say so, I am still the famous Demon King of Byakuya. It is really embarrassing to be provoked by a junior like this and not dare to fight back. Shiroyasha rubbed his head and muttered angrily. He looked completely lifeless, and seemed to be particularly indulgent towards Black Rabbit. This scene couldn't help but make Izayoi and others curious about the relationship between Black Rabbit and Shiroyasha. Okay, the sideshow is over, let's get down to business. Are you here today to confirm the gift? I have a rough idea. Byakusha said this and turned around, Yayu and others followed behind her. Lord Byakusha, do you see what their gifts are? The other ones are not very clear yet, but I am sure that this boy's power is related to ice. Anyone with eyes can see this. Hearing what Shiroyasha said, Izayoi rolled his eyes angrily. What do you know, kid? Do you know how many gifts Frost has in the same system of power? If you want to know the details of a gift, you have to date a senior appraiser. Although this guy's power is clear at a glance. It has something to do with Frost, but if it weren't for the appraisers living on the upper floors, there would be no way to confirm it in detail. After talking for a long time, the result is that I can't identify it at all. Izayoi shrugged as he said this, while Shiroyasha's expression was a little embarrassed. She coughed lightly to attract everyone's ideas, and spoke again. Although we can't identify it, it will be easy if we use this. As he spoke, Byakusha clapped his hands twice, and 4 shining cards suddenly appeared in front of the 4 of them. The cards not only record their respective names, but also mark the names of the gifts contained within them. On the sky blue card was written Reverse Izayoi and the gift name unknown. On the burgundy card is written the long-lasting bird's gift name Wei Guang. The dark green card reads Kazuke Byoshi's gift name Life Catalog and no specific form. Only the pale card that fell into Yayu's hand quickly froze before the information was revealed. Each of the 4 people takes their own card. Black Rabbit, who seemed surprised, looked at the card in the hands of the 4 people with excitement on his face, and said its name loudly. Gift card. Zhonyuan Li. End of the year money. New Year's money. Faced with the various names from the 3 problem children, Black Rabbit's feet softened and he almost fell to the ground. What happened to mine? Yayu, dumbfounded, raised the frozen card in his hand and asked Byakusha. The chill emanating from the card made Black Rabbit and the others take a few steps back. Even Shiroyasha felt uncomfortable. The terrible frost and cold air just now seemed to be completely condensed into this small card. Ah, your power is really quite unpleasant. Byakusha said this with some displeasure, lowering his head to examine the adjectives on the card in Yayu's hand. Unholy frost. Although it was very blurry, through the ice, Byakusha could see a few words like this. Is it this again, unholy frost? Yayu murmured in a low voice. He was no stranger to this title. It was also the title that Hestia had shown in his appraisal. What do I mean? Izayoi's voice sounded from the side. Huh? What are you? Byakusha looked at Izayoi's gift card. The words unknown identity were clearly written on it. One of them almost caused the gift card to shatter, and the other one said that the identity is unknown. You guys really, could it be that the level of the gift has reached such a high level that even the omniscient Laplace paper cannot properly identify it? Anyway, it just can't be identified. Hee, I can finally get back a little bit in front of this monster. Izayoi said these words to Yayu. I have to say that Izayoi, who calls himself a monster, was hit hard after meeting Yayu today. After leaving Shiroyasha's game world, several people came to the shop where the curtains were lowered. Black Rabbit saluted to Shiroyasha. Thank you very much for today, Lord Shiroyasha. Ah, it's just a little effort. Byakusha waved the folding fan in his hand. He originally wanted to say something more, but he gave up the idea after seeing the figure walking slowly not far away. I'm sorry, the guest I was waiting for has arrived, so let's talk about it next time we meet. Shiroyasha said this, making Black Rabbit slightly stunned. On the other side, Izayoi and others looked at the guest Shiroyasha mentioned with some curiosity. As if he noticed something, Yayu raised his head involuntarily, and immediately his eyes were completely attracted by the figure slowly walking in the distance. The ice blue eyes intersected, and the woman's long hair, which was like her pupils, fluttered gently, accompanied by dots of dream-like ice crystals. This was a woman who looked as if she was carved from ice, and her beauty was heartbreaking. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong Dai Shang. Chapter 180. Stop looking, be careful if your eyes freeze. This friend of mine doesn't like to be stared at. He said this in a woman's jealous tone that was a bit funny, and Kuro Yosagi, Izayoi and others also cooperated and averted their eyes. It wasn't that they were so obedient, but as they continued to watch, they really felt that their eyes were about to freeze. Wow wow wow, what the hell? Why did another popsicle pop up? Izayoi yelled noisily. He had been tortured by Yayu's frost all day, but now a monster appeared that made his eyes hurt just by looking at it. I warned you. Shiroyasha shrugged as if it was none of my business, while Black Rabbit looked worried. Which adult is this, so scary? Don't ask or think too much about things you don't need to know. She is not from the same world as you. Shiroyasha said this in a warning tone, and Black Rabbit immediately shut his mouth obediently. The woman is very beautiful, but the clothes she wears seem a bit strange. It is a long robe that does not match her slender figure. Her two long sleeves are fluttering when she walks, making people feel like it's as if the clothes will slide off at any time. She walked to Yayu and stopped, her blue eyes looking at Yayu, and Yayu also stood there motionless. The two of them seemed to have met each other's eyes. What is this? As Izayoi muttered, he couldn't help but shiver. He began to feel the temperature around him drop rapidly. So what's going on? It's summer, right? It feels like it has been a long time since I struggled through the cold winter months. This, sir. Black Rabbit felt his heart beat a little faster. The two of them wouldn't start fighting like this without saying a word, would they? I said, you must have fallen in love with this guy, right? What, do you want me to introduce him to you? At the critical moment, Shiroyasha broke the silence with a smile. Immediately, the woman shook her head and turned towards Shiroyasha's shop. Nothing. Then see you later when you have time. After waving to Black Rabbit and the others, Byakusha walked into the shop with the mysterious woman. Come to your senses, they have left. Turning around and seeing Yayu still standing there stupidly, Izayoi couldn't help but say something funny. What's wrong? Have we fallen in love? I also feel that you two are a good match. You two are both cold and icy. No. It just feels a little strange. Yayu shook his head gently. He couldn't tell what was strange. He always felt that this woman gave him a strange sense of familiarity. Strange? Could it be that Mr. Yayu and that adult know each other? Black Rabbit asked with some confusion, while Yayu shook his head gently. No, I don't know her. Today is the first time I met her, it's just. Yayu said this, paused slightly, then shook his head and chose silence. Well, it's just love at first sight, I can understand that. Izayoi showed an expression that every man would understand, but no one paid him any attention. It's really strange that you suddenly came down to me. Behind the curtain, in Shirayashi's room, a petite loli in a kimono poured tea and said this to the woman in front of her who seemed to be made of ice and snow. Ah, it's true, because of you, my tea has gone cold. Byaksha said so self-consciously, but the other party did not pay attention to her, or in other words, the woman in front of her was distracted while sitting in front of her. Byaksha was slightly stunned, because the other party always looked expressionless and frigid, and she was used to it. She originally thought that the other person was the same as usual, but after observing her for a while, she noticed that the other person's eyes had lost focus. It was obvious that she wasn't listening to herself at all. I said, "What is going on, Kalthuzad? This is not like your usual self? Could it be?" Byaksha frowned slightly as she said this, with a look of disbelief and surprise on her face. "You guys, you really have a crush on that kid, right? Although the two of you are indeed very similar in power, at first I thought he had something to do with you. Don't say such strange things. You should know that for the Forsaken, feelings are a very ridiculous thing." As Byaksha said this, the woman named Kalthuzad finally became serious and stared at her as she answered. I know, you are the forgotten ones." Byaksha waved his hand and said casually. "Okay, tell me what you are here for this time." "Of course it's for that matter." Kalthuzad gently picked up the teacup that Byaksha had poured in front of him. The moment the girl's palm touched the teacup, the steaming teacup froze into a lump of ice. Byaksha rolled his eyes and watched as Kalthuzad held the teacup that turned into popsicles and swallowed it directly. The sound of chewing clicked, and each time it made Shirayashi's brows tremble uncontrollably. Although I have watched it many times, the way Kalthuzad drinks tea still makes Shirayashi complain every time. A special person with the power of frost. Byaksha muttered, tapping his fingers lightly on the table. "That's the guy just now, is that why you care so much? But having said that, I still don't know what you want to do by finding someone like this. I remember I have found several for you before, but that guy, why are you completely dissatisfied?" Byaksha muttered, but it was obvious that Kalthuzad had no intention of explaining it to her. The girl just stared at her beautiful blue eyes and continued to remain silent. "I told you not to go too far. I have been working so hard to help you, and you didn't even tell me the reason." Byaksha complained, but Kalthuzad still had no intention of explaining. Okay, forget it because I'm afraid of you. It just so happens that the guy you saw today is the same one. He just joined Wyoming. I won't interfere with whatever you do. Thank you very much. I and my lord will definitely remember your help to our community, the Scourge Legion, Byaksha. That's it for today. See you next time. Nodding slightly to Byaksha, Kalthuzad left without any regrets.